On New Year's Eve, my husband, Zhang Tao, generously gave his nephews and nieces 200 each for lucky money, but he didn't give any to our son. After several hints, he finally reached into his pocket, but what he pulled out was a 5-cent coin, which he casually tossed at our son's feet. Our son thought it was some shiny toy and foolishly chased after it, eliciting a burst of laughter. I had to patiently say, "It's only New Year's once a year. Give the child a little more." Zhang Tao suddenly went crazy, kicking over the table laden with New Year's Eve dinner and shouting at me, "Dream on. You gave birth to an idiot, and you still want more money. Am I supposed to rely on him to support me in my old age or something?" Our intellectually disabled son, frightened, had an episode on the spot. Covering his ears and screaming, my mother-in-law grabbed a broom and stepped forward. "You're wailing during the new year." My father-in-law sat on the sofa, leisurely munching on melon seeds, not even lifting an eyelid. My sisters-in-law and uncles just watched the spectacle from the sidelines. At that moment, my last attachment to this family disappeared. I pushed my mother-in-law away, held my frantic son tightly in my arms, and said to Zhang Tao, "This life is unbearable. Let's get a divorce." And so, on New Year's Eve, my 3-year-old son and I were kicked out of the Zhang family's home. Welcome everyone to mini story time. Let me tell you, I held Ping Ping and walked for an hour and a half in the snowy night back to my mother's home. When I knocked on the gate of my mother's courtyard, my mother frowned as soon as she saw me. "It's New Year's. Why aren't you at your own home eating dumplings? What are you doing back here?" I choked up and said, "The Zhang family kicked Ping Ping and me out." The winter night was bone-chillingly cold. I was worried that Ping Ping in my arms would catch a cold and wanted to go inside first. My mother not only didn't move aside but instead took 2 steps forward, anxiously saying, "You can't come in. A married daughter is like water thrown out, returning to her parents' home for the new year. Your brother will be poor for life." I was stunned, and after a moment I said, "Where's my dad?" "Your dad says the same thing. This is the family's decision. You should leave quickly." So, they all knew I was back, but they pretended not to. Standing at the gate, I could even hear the sounds of the Spring Festival gala coming from the main room. My brother and sister-in-law were laughing non-stop at the skits being performed. My heart was ice cold, and my throat was so choked that I couldn't utter a single word. My mother said some comforting words, mainly telling me to bear with it, saying that the Zhang family had grievances with me for giving birth to such a child, which was normal. The courtyard gate was closed for a long time before I held Ping Ping and aimlessly walked into the wind and snow. Ping Ping obediently snuggled in my arms, under the red lantern hanging at the village entrance. His calm little face looked exactly like a normal child's. Even when I stumbled on the ice and snow, he subconsciously tightened his grip around my neck and gently uttered 2 words, "Mama." I stroked the back of his head and softly asked him, "Are you cold?" Such words were beyond his comprehension. He repeated my words like a parrot. "Cold, cold, cold." My son is mentally deficient. There were no abnormalities when he was first born. He could roll over at 3 months and sit up unsupported at 6. By 8 months, he could stand while holding onto someone's hand. At that time, he was the apple of the family's eye. His paternal grandparents loved him to the core, taking him everywhere they went. Although my husband, Zhang Tao, was a hands-off kind of guy, he never hesitated to spend money on our son. But from then on, Ping Ping's developmental speed slowed down. It wasn't until he was 2 years old that he learned to walk. He's 3 years old now, and the other children in the village of the same age are already chattering away. He has only learned a few simple words like mama, grandma, and papa. The doctor said it was slow development and could only depend on the child's own fate. There was no medicine for it. The villagers called it more directly. They said he was retarded. Overnight, everyone in the family withdrew their love for Ping Ping. His paternal grandmother would purse her lips and say bad luck whenever she saw him. His paternal grandfather stopped teaching Ping Ping to say grandpa. My husband stopped buying toys for our son. Zhang Tao's grandmother even accidentally lost Ping Ping while taking him to the market. I went crazy that time, searching for a whole day. When I brought Ping Ping back home, I was not greeted with the family's surprise, but with cold stares. My husband, Zhang Tao, was a truck driver and didn't often know what was happening at home. I thought even a tiger wouldn't eat its cubs. And he was. After all, Ping Ping's biological father. He wouldn't be as indifferent as the older generation. But in the 12th lunar month, after he finished delivering goods and came back with the several thousand yuan he had earned, he bought clothes for this person and milk for that person. But he didn't bring even a chicken feather for me and Ping Ping. That night, I saw Zhang Tao's true nature clearly, and it made me understand that once a woman marries, she no longer has her own home. All around was endless darkness, and I didn't know where to go. When I realized it, I had already climbed over the railing on Kaoshan Road and stood on the edge of the cliff. At the bottom of the cliff was a deep, invisible ravine. The piercingly cold wind scraped my face like a knife. In that moment, I suddenly wondered if everything would end if I jumped down. I hugged my son, who had already fallen asleep, and murmured, "Ping Ping, don't be afraid. Mommy is here with you. It will be over soon." Just as I was about to fall forward, the son in my arms suddenly woke up. He stretched out his warm little hand and stroked my icy face, and said, "Mommy, cold." I collapsed onto the snow and cried out loud. This was the Spring Festival of 2000. Dawn, one of the 4 heavenly kings of Kanto pop, ignited the Spring Festival gala stage with Happy 2000. I tried to die with my child but failed. Since I didn't die, I might as well throw myself into living. That night, I carried Ping Ping on my back and walked for 3 hours along mountain roads, finally checking into a dormitory-style room in a city guest house. The room cost 10 yuan a day. Despite being called a dormitory, it was just Ping Ping and me in the entire room. I bought a bowl of instant noodles from the front desk, and after preparing it, it became our New Year's Eve dinner. The owner, seeing our plight, also gave us a sausage. I fed Ping Ping until he was full, then finished what he left, and coaxed him to sleep. I didn't sleep all night. I kept racking my brains about how to make money. I only had a little over 300 yuan left, which was what remained from buying New Year's goods in the 12th lunar month. If Ping Ping developed even a minor ailment, that 300 yuan would vanish overnight. Plus, I still needed to treat Ping Ping's condition. He was a simpleton. Was there no medical intervention that could alleviate his condition? But after thinking all night, I couldn't come up with a way to make money quickly. Setting up a street stall. Everyone had already bought enough New Year's goods in the 12th lunar month. Who would I sell to? I wouldn't even last until the first month. Working as a shop assistant, that wouldn't work either. With Ping Ping, I couldn't take a job with fixed hours. On the morning of the first day of the Lunar New Year, I went to the front desk with bloodshot eyes to get hot water, shamelessly asking the guest house owner to keep an eye out for any job opportunities for me. The owner said there was a bousy shop nearby that had been hiring recently, working only half days, for 500 yuan a month. This job was perfect for me. Since I was little, I had been cooking for my family. Steamed buns, baozi, and other wheat-based foods were my specialty. While working, I could carry Ping Ping on my back or let him play nearby without affecting the owner's business. I asked for the address, and after returning to the room and quickly washing up with Ping Ping, I carried him there. But the baozi shop was closed. A notice written on red paper was posted on the door, saying they wouldn't open until the 5th day of the Lunar New Year. On the way back to the guest house, I asked at every open shop that was hiring. As soon as I mentioned having a child, I was rejected. The Bali shop opening on the 5th day of the Lunar New Year became my only lifeline. While waiting, wanting to save as much as possible, I decided to go back to the Zhang family and retrieve my clothes and bedding. At noon on the first day of the Lunar New Year, I carried Ping Ping back to the Zhang family on foot. The Zhang family's house was packed. According to custom, on the first day of the Lunar New Year, Zhang's brothers and their families came to pay their respects. Everyone fell silent when they saw me. They looked at me like they were looking at a disabled person. There was gloating, disdain, and perhaps some pity. All were condescending. Zhang Tao was standing next to a table of food, toasting people, without even raising his eyelids. My mother-in-law saw me and immediately tried to drive me out. "What are you doing back here? Do you still want to burden Tao Tao? Get out of here with your mentally retarded son." People in the village often called Ping Ping mentally retarded in private. But those words, coming from the Zhang family's own mouths, still stung me. No matter how useless my son is, doesn't he still have the Zhang family name? I instinctively took a step back, one hand protecting Ping Ping behind me, and said calmly, "I'm back to take my and Ping Ping's things, and then I'll leave." My mother-in-law sneered. "What could you possibly have in this house? Since you married into the Zhang family, everything you've eaten and worn has been bought with my son's money. What belongs to you?" I met Zhang Tao at the factory where we tighten screws. After getting pregnant after the marriage, I quit my job like all the women in the village and returned to my hometown to await childbirth. After giving birth, I began to raise children, serve the elderly, and tend to the crops. Indeed, I haven't earned a penny since I got married, but I haven't idled away a single day. Arguing about this now is pointless. I went around her and directly started packing my and Ping Ping's clothes. I took 2 bed sheets and wrapped them into 2 full bundles. As I carried the bundles out, my mother-in-law snatched one of them. "Did you steal any valuables from my house?" Her hand trembled, and the bed sheet came undone. Ping Ping's and my clothes tumbled to the ground, including my bras, underwear, and the remaining half-pack of sanitary napkins, all exposed to everyone. A little girl, not yet understanding, pointed at my bra and said to her mother, "Mommy, you have that too." But her mother snorted, "Mine is bigger than that." The relatives present burst into laughter. At that moment, all my dignity was trampled under their feet, crushed heavily, the sun on my back. Hearing the laughter, got scared and started to cry. I'm gentle by nature, and in the past, I would have hugged my son and cried with him, but the me of the past died last night. I took off the baby carrier and gently comforted my son in my arms. When he stopped crying, I looked directly at my mother-in-law. "Have you checked everything? What valuables did I take? Go ahead and call the police to arrest me." She kept a cold face and didn't say anything. I squatted down and began to pick up my and Ping Ping's clothes, those that had been accidentally stepped on, stained with wine and food scraps. I picked them all up and rewrapped them in the bed sheet. Zhang Tao made his appearance at the end. After the marriage, the family pooled money to buy him a truck. He has been hauling goods for people outside to earn money. And my husband and I have been separated more than we've been together. I used to be full of concern for him, worried about his safety, worried that he wasn't eating well. Every piece of his clothing contained a safety charm that I had prayed for. Every leaf of the tea he took in the truck was picked and roasted by my own hands. After Ping Ping was diagnosed with developmental delay, I felt boundless guilt. Everyone said that it was because I took cold medicine during pregnancy that I turned a good child into a bad one. A fool, I thought countless times. If I hadn't trusted the doctor's prescription at that time, if I had endured it, would Ping Ping be healthy? Wouldn't the Zhang family be laughed at by the villagers? But since last night, when Zhang Tao personally drove me away, All my feelings for him were gone. He stood there, a look of disdain on his face, and slowly asked, "When are you going to get a divorce?" I said, "We'll go as soon as the Civil Affairs Bureau reopens on the 8th. Seeing how straightforward I was, he sneered instead, "I'm afraid you'll chicken out when the time comes." "You'll know when the time comes, won't you?" I still carried Ping Ping on my back, with a sheet-wrapped bundle in each arm, and stepped out the door without a shred of regret. Just a couple of steps out, one of the Zhang family's aunts rushed up from behind and stopped me. She tried to persuade me. "Tao Tao's just stubborn. You embarrassed him in front of so many people. Just say a few soft words to him and come on back home." I shook my head and said with a wry smile, "Do you see any place for me and Ping Ping in this house?" The aunt tried to persuade me. "But you're a woman alone. And you have Ping Ping with you. Where can you go? Home is always better than being outside." I knew she meant well, but there was no turning back for me. Seeing that I was determined to leave, she had no choice but to take out 200 yuan and stuff it into my hand, wiping away tears as she said, "Find a good place for you and Ping Ping to live. And give me a call." My nose stung. There were good people in the Zhang family too, but my home wasn't here. On the morning of the 5th day of the new year, I hurried to the steamed bun shop. This day was breaking 5 to welcome the god of wealth, and all business people chose to open for business on this day. When I arrived, the steamed bun shop was selling breakfast. People outside were eating, and people inside were hurrying to wrap and steam. The owner's surname was Zua, a woman around 40 years old. Upon learning that I also had a child to bring, Sister Zua quickly waved her hand. "That won't do. A 3-year-old child will pee and poop. And if the customers see it, how can I keep my steamed bun shop open?" I quickly said, "He can control his bowels and bladder. He won't make a mess. He won't cause trouble either. As long as he's not frightened, he can play with the toys in his hands the whole time." Seeing that she was still hesitating, I went ahead and picked up a freshly rolled out bun wrapper, scooped up the filling, and started wrapping. First, I wrapped a traditional 1,000-pleat bun. Then, I immediately wrapped a braid bun. After wrapping another 1,000-pleat bun, I kneaded it round again, took scissors to cut 2 small pieces of dough from another dough, gently folded them, and finally pressed them onto the round dough, creating a little bunny bun. 3 buns, done in less than a minute. While I was wrapping the buns, Ping Ping was lying on my back, only staring at the paper airplane in his hand, not causing any trouble. Boss Swift finally nodded. "Half days every day. 500 yuan a month. Includes meals but not accommodation." My eyes turned red, and I nodded heavily. "Yes." On the way back, I happily said to Ping Ping, "Mom can finally support you. When Mom earns her first month's salary, Mom will take you to the doctor and definitely get you cured." Ping Ping couldn't understand my words at all, but he was still infected by my joy and laughed along with me. From the next day on, I took Ping Ping out at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to the steamed bun shop to knead dough, chop filling, wrap buns, and cook porridge. I helped open the shop at 7. When the shop was too busy, I would also step in to greet customers. Ping Ping would sometimes fall asleep on my back. When he was awake, I would put him in the Baozi shop's storage room, give him half a bowl of soybeans, and mix in half a bowl of mung beans, so he could separate them. I heard this from a doctor at the hospital, to exercise the flexibility of his fingers and his hand-eye coordination. At 12 noon, we would stay at the Baozi shop for lunch. Although Sister Zwa initially minded Ping Ping, she was actually a soft-hearted person. The words she said most to Ping Ping were, "Eat more meat, so you can grow tall." After lunch and getting off work, I would take Ping Ping to see the city's various attractions, both big and small. I would tirelessly repeat the names of the various plants and buildings we encountered along the way. as if by repeating them enough, he would remember them. But in fact, even when he repeated after me, he would often forget it the second after he said it. But it doesn't matter. As long as we keep trying, there will be hope. We moved when we had a moment, to a single room in a large courtyard near the Bali shop, 10 square meters, with only a bed inside. The rent was 80. To cook, you had to light a stove outside the door, and to get water, you had to use a bucket to collect it from the tap in the yard. Everyone living in the same courtyard was setting up stalls on the street doing small business. Everyone's conditions were similar. No one looked down on anyone else. On the 8th day of the first lunar month, I borrowed the Bali shop's landline to call the Zhang family, asking Zhang Tao to come out for a divorce. He said coldly on the phone, "Do I need you to rush me? I can't wait to break off all ties with you immediately." At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, he appeared as promised on his motorcycle at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. The divorce terms were not agreed upon. Zhang Tao thought I would leave with nothing. When I proposed to divide the marital property equally and have him pay child support for Ping Ping, he broke down. He kept emphasizing that the money was earned by him and had nothing to do with me. The idiot was born by me and had nothing to do with him. Even the staff at the Civil Affairs Bureau were speechless at him, and finally advised me, "Girl, why don't you wait until you've been separated for 2 years and then file for divorce?" Coming out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Zhang Tao pointed his finger at me and said through gritted teeth, "How come I didn't see that you're a money-loving thing? If I had known you were this kind of person, would I have married you back then? Let me tell you, I don't want a divorce now. They'll drag you down. They'll drag you until you die of old age." I had heard people say before that if you want to see a man clearly, get a divorce with him. Now looking at Zhang Tao's ugly face, I really want to slap myself twice. How did I ever fall for him? But even if he's a scumbag, I won't back down. I'm not just myself now. I'm also a mother. For Ping Ping, I will fight for all the benefits that are due to us. I said calmly but firmly, "You don't have to get a divorce. We'll see who drags who down. Your parents still want to hold a healthy grandson. We'll see if they die first or if I die first. No matter how many kids you have after this, if I don't give way, none of them will get a household registration or go to school." During our argument, Ping Ping, who had been looking scared, suddenly spat at Zhang Tao. Zhang Tao pointed at Ping Ping, then at me, and finally said through gritted teeth, "Fine. Very fine. You two are a rotten pair. We'll see who's tougher." He got on his motorcycle and sped away. I didn't hear from him for the rest of the year. I continued working at the Bali shop with Ping Ping. I planned to file for divorce after 2 years of separation. At the end of my first month working, I received 500 yuan in wages. That afternoon, I took Ping Ping to the city's People's Hospital and made an appointment with the neurology department. Various examinations and tests cost 200 yuan. The final conclusion was the same as before. Developmental delay. I was unwilling to accept it and said to the doctor, "But he can say mama now, and he can say a lot of words." The doctor looked at me sympathetically. Developmental delay doesn't mean development stops. Most of the words he says are imitations, not autonomous actions. Perhaps not wanting to disappoint me, she added, "Now, big cities have intervention classes for developmental delay. If you could take your child to Beijing or Shanghai for a few of these classes, he might improve." Beijing, Shanghai. In my mind, those were places only people with great abilities and wealth could go. The thin stack of 300 or 400 yuan in my wallet couldn't support those 2 place names. There were several schools on the way to the Bali shop every day. The students at the schools would start their day with running, exercises, then have breakfast and attend evening self-study. Once, I asked a teacher who often came to the Bali shop for breakfast about it. He wasn't sure why this arrangement was in place. but I thought there must be a scientific basis behind it. So, I started to reduce the amount of time I held or carried Ping Ping, and instead, I ran with him. When I got to the shop, I had a quick breakfast of 2 baozi and then had him start practicing picking up beans. After getting off work at noon, he would run home with me and then practice tying his shoelaces over and over. Besides learning these things, I treated him like a normal child. When I cooked, I had him help me pick vegetables. When I combed my hair, I had him hand me the comb. If he didn't know how, I would hold his hand and guide him through the motions. Again and again. At first, he had very little patience and would always resist with screams. Whenever this happened, my mood would hit rock bottom, but I also knew it wasn't his fault. His soul was trapped in those physical limitations. Who wouldn't scream? In the summer, I met my older brother and sister-in-law at the baozi shop. When they saw me, they pretended to be surprised and happy, saying they had been trying to find me for a long time, but only knew I had left Zhang's family and didn't know where I had gone. My brother said that my mother cried every day, saying that she shouldn't have refused me entry on New Year's Eve. He said my mother's health wasn't as good as in previous years, and my father had also aged a lot, and asked me to go back and visit them more often. I only asked him, "Did you get rich this year since your married-out sister didn't return home for the new year?" My brother and sister-in-law looked embarrassed, saying awkwardly that they hadn't made any money. The pigs they raised had all died of disease. When they left, they were hoping to get free steamed buns because of my connection. Sisterswa waved her hand grandly. Eating a free meal will get you reported to the police. My brother and sister-in-law put down the money and scurried away. They knew where I worked, but they didn't show up again after that. This year, I saved 2,000 yuan on my own. Ping Ping had become quite skilled at picking up beans by hand, so we switched to using chopsticks. He wasn't as afraid of strangers as before, as long as he was holding my hand on the bustling streets. He wouldn't get nervous and scream anymore. He also knew many more words and occasionally blurted out idioms, but he still couldn't form sentences. There was still no progress in learning to tie shoelaces. In 2001, Ping Ping and I spent the spring festival in our rented room. I made him his favorite cola chicken wings and also made myself my favorite garlic ribs. Besides the 100 yuan I gave him, Ping Ping also received 100 yuan in lucky money from Sisterswa. He solemnly tucked the red envelope into his picture book, not allowing anyone to touch it. I also spent 50 yuan to buy a second-hand color TV so we could watch the Spring Festival Gala on time. Zhao Benchen's skit selling crutches made me laugh so hard I almost fell over. Ping Ping didn't know how much he understood, but as long as I laughed, he laughed along with me. And at 12 o'clock that night, the neighbor from the convenience store at the entrance of the alley yawned and knocked on my door, saying there was a phone call for me. When I answered, I heard Zhang Tao's voice on the phone. He, who had disappeared for a year, said to me at this time, 9 o'clock on the morning of the 8th day of the new year, at the Civil Affairs Bureau, when we went to get divorced, Zhang Tao brought his current girlfriend. The girl was in her early 20s, with a hint of youthfulness on her face, and her belly was already very big. I asked Zhang Tao for 20,000 yuan, including a one-time payment for Ping Ping's future support. The 3 mu and 2 fen of land that Ping Ping and I own should also be given to me. Of course, he could refuse, but his girlfriend's belly couldn't wait. Zhang Tao agreed through gritted teeth. I waited until the money was in my account before signing my name. As soon as we finished the divorce, he was eager to take his girlfriend to get their marriage certificate. As he was about to enter the service hall, he backed out again, gloating and saying, "Zhao Shaoqing, I had someone calculate it, and Zhang Tao, in this life, will have a house full of children and grandchildren, all with normal brains." I had no mood to argue with him. With the money in hand, I immediately had the idea of going to Beijing and Shanghai. That afternoon, I bought a train ticket to Beijing. When I set off the next day, Sisters Wu came to the platform to see me off, stuffing 500 yuan into my hand, telling me to take good care of Ping Ping's treatment. I wiped away my tears, hugged Ping Ping, and arrived at Beijing West after 17 hours in a hard seat. First, I went to Peking Union Medical College Hospital for an examination. The examination process was more thorough than in my hometown, and the conclusions were also graded. Previously, the hospital in my hometown only said that Ping Ping had developmental delays, but to what extent was not clear. This time, the hospital's assessment was that he had mild delays. The doctor asked me how I usually did rehabilitation training for Ping Ping. Learning that I had my child exercise before doing various exercises gave me great affirmation, saying that aerobic exercise can stimulate the growth of brain cell neurons, making learning after exercise more effective. Gaining the expert's affirmation greatly boosted my confidence, but she suggested that more scientific intervention should keep up. Outside the hospital, there were advertisements for several intervention institutions. I carried Ping Ping and went to each address mentioned in the advertisements. After visiting for a few days, each institution had its own advantages and disadvantages, but the common point was the tuition fees were frighteningly high. In that year, an ordinary bowl of noodles was only 2 yuan. 3 steamed buns cost 1 yuan. An intervention lesson cost 50 yuan, and 1 lesson a day was simply ineffective. Given Ping Ping's situation, at least 3 lessons were needed. After a month, plus the living expenses for both of us, it would cost at least 6,000, and the effect couldn't be fully guaranteed. In these institutions, parents from all over the country gathered daily with children like Ping Ping, trying to give their children a better possibility. After tossing and turning for 3 days, I gritted my teeth and selected an institution. At the same time, I applied to become a cleaner at this institution. This way, when Ping Ping was in class, I could not only earn money but also learn secretly, following along to learn how to scientifically train children. I called Sisters Wu and told her my decision. She was very supportive, saying, "Little Qing, you are a resilient person. You will surely succeed in anything you set your mind to." My throat choked up, and I couldn't utter a word of thanks. I stayed in Beijing, entrusted Sisters Wu to help me return the rented house in my hometown, and rented a room in a village in the city. Every day, Ping Ping and I went to the intervention institution together. He received training, and I cleaned. After cleaning, I would stand by the glass window outside the classroom, following along to learn the teacher's methods. After the day's training, I would take Ping Ping out to set up a stall, selling Chinese-style souvenirs to foreigners traveling to Beijing. I learned how to deal with the urban management while taking care of Ping Ping. I also learned how to bargain with foreigners in English. If the items sold quickly that day, I would use the remaining time to take Ping Ping around. We went to the Great Wall, Hohai, the Summer Palace, Jingshan Park, and Shikahai. We measured every street and alley, big and small, with our 2 pairs of feet. 1 big and 1 small. The first turning point in Ping Ping's intervention and learning appeared in the 8th month of our life in Beijing, while I was holding a box of souvenirs, bargaining with foreigners near the Forbidden City. Ping Ping, who was standing by my side, suddenly raised his hand and pointed into the distance, muttering, "Mama, Mama." I didn't react until I caught a glimpse of the urban management uniform out of the corner of my eye, and I ran away with Ping Ping. After shaking off the urban management and catching my breath, it finally dawned on me. Did Ping Ping just point at the urban management on his own initiative? Pointing at objects is an important indicator of whether a developmentally delayed child is making progress. It signifies that this child possesses the ability to think proactively and is willing to communicate with others. In intervention centers, Many children attend hundreds of classes without showing any desire to point. And how much envy is garnered from parents when a child is willing to point. At this moment, tears streamed down my face. This year's hard work was not in vain. After breaking through pointing, Ping Ping's progress surged forward. Fine motor skills, language proficiency, sensory integration development, and empathy have all improved significantly. Ping Ping and I lived in Beijing for 2 years in total. After New Year's Day in 2003, after a double assessment by the Intervention Center and Peking Union Medical College Hospital, Ping Ping had reached the standard for home rehabilitation. In other words, when he reached school age, he wouldn't need to go to a special school, but could attend a regular school, although, upon closer observation, one could still see some differences between him and normal children. But who can say for sure what the future holds? On New Year's Eve of 2003, Ping Ping and I spent it on the train returning to our hometown. Along with people from all over the country, we also participated in the train's Spring Festival Gala, putting up Spring Festival couplets, eating dumplings, and enjoying performances by the staff. After the hustle and bustle, everything returned to calm. Sleepy-eyed Ping Ping asked me before falling asleep, "Mom, where are we going? Where are we going?" I kissed his forehead. "Home. Where is home? Home. Home is a place with love." On the morning of the first day of the Lunar New Year, the train arrived at the station. It was Sister Zwa who came to pick us up. After giving Ping Ping and me a solid hug, the first thing she said to me was, "Have you heard? Your ex-husband's second marriage child is also an idiot." I saw Zhang Tao's child from his second marriage when I took Ping Ping to get his required vaccinations at the hospital when he was enrolling in elementary school. Zhang Tao and his second wife had already seen the doctor and were waiting for the elevator. Zhang Tao was holding a boy of about 2 years old in his arms. Logically speaking, a child of this age should be mischievous, unable to stay still for a moment. But the boy leaned against Zhang Tao in his arms, with a vacant look in his eyes. At this moment, a wave of people suddenly came, and the child clearly became frightened. The voices of people around him suddenly became louder, and the child immediately covered his ears and screamed continuously. How familiar was this scene? My Ping Ping had been through this since he was little. Zhang Tao tried frantically to stop the little boy from screaming, but the more he tried, the more counterproductive it became. He simply slapped the little boy in the face. The screaming immediately turned into loud crying. Everyone around him began to criticize him. Ping Ping also became nervous under such noise. His little hand clenched my hand tightly, and his mouth instinctively pursed, until the child, in a break between crying gasps, softly asked me, "Mommy, what's wrong with little brother?" At this moment, Zhang Tao recognized me and Ping Ping. In an instant, the expression on his face was complex and varied. There was surprise, embarrassment, resentment, and anger. What was he angry about? I should be the one who's angry, even now. I still remember the dirty water the Zhang family threw at me after the hospital tests showed Ping Ping's development was slow. They said it was all my fault, that the Zhang family had terrible luck to have married a daughter-in-law like me, never mentioning the Zhang family themselves. Later, when I recalled the early days of my marriage with Zhang Tao, I vaguely remembered hearing people in the village mention that Zhang Tao originally had an older sister who died at only 2 or 3 years old. I even asked Zhang Tao's mother about this rumor later. His mother only said that the villagers were gossiping and trying to frame them. Looking back now, who knows if it wasn't the truth? No matter who Zhang Tao was with, there would be problems with their offspring. Shouldn't that be because of a problem with the Zhang family's genes? After Ping Ping's vaccination, after the half-hour observation period, I ran into Zhang Tao again at the hospital exit. The moment he opened his mouth, he asked, "Ping Ping, is his brain normal now?" I shielded Ping Ping behind me and said coldly, "Whether he's good or not has nothing to do with you." He took an excited step forward, speeding up his speech. "How does it have nothing to do with me? Now the whole village is saying my kid is bound to be an idiot. If I take Ping Ping in front of those people, wouldn't the rumors be dispelled?" He stepped forward and tried to grab Ping Ping's hand. There were construction workers using an axe in the open space next to us. I snatched it and swung it down on Zhang Tao's shoulder. Bright red blood flowed from the wound, instantly staining half of his body red. I stared straight at him, gritting my teeth and saying, "Stay away from my son. If you dare touch him, I'm capable of anything, besides the excruciating pain." His face was full of shock. He probably didn't expect that I, who was originally so gentle, would fight him to the death. Ping Ping had never seen such a scene before. Stimulated, he suddenly started crying. He rushed forward and kicked Zhang Tao. "Don't bully my mommy. Don't bully my mommy," afraid that Ping Ping would have a seizure. I picked him up and left quickly. Ping Ping went to primary school normally and became a proud young pioneer. I was still working at Sister's Was breakfast shop, just like before, thanks to inflation. My salary also rose to 1,002. The Zhang family rented a storefront on the same street and opened a car repair shop. Zhang Tao no longer ran long distances, but switched to repairing cars. His son grew up day by day, running around haphazardly on the street, being called idiot. Idiot by the children passing by. No one from the Zhang family came out to stop them. The little child just listened with a smile. When someone bullied him, he would sit on the street and cry for a while. If he saw a banana peel someone had thrown on the ground, he would forget his crying and pick it up to put it in his mouth. Sometimes Zhang Tao's mother would come to the city to visit her son and daughter-in-law. Seeing her grandson like this, she could only wipe away tears, crying and saying, "My son, why is his life so hard?" At the end of that year, Ping Ping's first semester final exam results for first grade came out. Out of a class of 50 students, he ranked 45th. When he handed me the report card, I kissed him hard on the face. "My child is so capable." Encouraged, he asked me loudly, "Mom, if I take another exam, I'll rank 44th. And you'll be even happier." You see, he even knew that in the logic of rankings, 44 was better than 45. How smart. Before, I wouldn't even have dared to dream such a dream. In the 12th lunar month, Sisters Wood decided to send her daughter to study at a high school abroad. She was going to accompany her, and asked me if I would be willing to take over the breakfast shop. The breakfast shop had a good location and had been open for several years, with a steady stream of customers. Except for being on the same street as Zhang Tao's repair shop, it had basically no shortcomings. The front was the dining area, and the back was the kitchen. A storeroom could be cleared out and used for living. I could even save on my rent. I was eager to try and finally decided to take it over. I still only opened for half a day. After finishing at noon, I would prepare the ingredients for the next day in advance, so that I could free up the afternoon and evening to continue Ping Ping's rehabilitation training. Zhang Tao's second wife once came to see me. She inquired about Ping Ping's rehabilitation progress, wanting to use it on her own child. I had no animosity towards her and felt sorry for the child's innocence, so I shared everything I knew. She didn't say anything after listening. Before long, she was pregnant again. At the end of the year, the Zhang family had another addition, but 2 years later, rumors started again. Zhang Tao's youngest son was also an idiot. Zhang Tao's mother began to frequent my steamed bun shop. Even if you changed Ping Ping's surname, he's still a descendant of the Zhang family. Let him interact with us more. It will be good for him in the future. I was too lazy to listen to her nagging, so I specifically raised a dog, just to keep her away. Only then did my ears finally have some peace. In the Spring Festival of 2008. Ping Ping was 11 years old and a 5th grade student. His grades always lagged behind, but it was already his best effort. The school teachers said that besides not being very good at studying, he was the most popular in the class and had the most friends. I gave him 1,000 yuan in lucky money as a reward. He screamed in shock and repeatedly praised me as a rich woman. When he went out to set off firecrackers, he brought back an envelope for me to see. Stuck on the outside of the door, the envelope had childish, scrawled handwriting that read, "To my good son Ping Ping." Opening the envelope, there was a red envelope inside, containing 100 yuan in cash. How generous. 2,000 times the value of 5 cents back then. I scoffed. I asked Ping Ping, "Do you cherish it?" Ping Ping shook his head firmly. So the next day, when I took him out to see a movie, I threw the red envelope into the gap of the auto repair shop's door. 2008 was an eventful year. That year, a major earthquake occurred, and the whole country was in mourning. The aftershocks also affected our small city. Zhang Tao's first child after his remarriage died in a dilapidated public toilet. When the street cleaner informed the Zhang family, Zhang Tao's mother breathed a sigh of relief, but was also disgusted that the child didn't die in a better place. Even collecting the body was sickening. It was said that the Zhang family's courtyard in the village had also cracked. Someone said they could apply for government compensation. Zhang Tao took photos and applied, and actually got 10,000 yuan. But not long after, Zhang Tao's second wife took all the money in the house, including that 10,000 yuan, and disappeared into a pitch-black night. She left alone, without taking her young son. Zhang Tao's mother sat at the entrance of the auto repair shop, cursing on the street for a month straight, making the matter known to everyone. 2 years later, Zhang Tao was finally able to file for divorce. The day after the divorce was successful, he came to find me. It was already 2011, the 11th year since Zhang Tao and I had separated. Our son, Ping Ping, had already taken the opportunity of the elementary school entrance exam to become an ordinary junior high school student and an ordinary middle school, although he often competed with another classmate for last place in every exam. The school was still his favorite place to go. On his way to and from school every day, he would pass by Zhang Tao's auto repair shop. Zhang Tao looked at him with envious eyes every day, boasting to others, "Look, that's my son too, a normal person, not stupid." Not everyone knew that he and I were once husband and wife, so people often ridiculed him. Want a normal son? Keep dreaming. Zhang Tao came to me to talk about remarriage. He said, "It's been 11 years and you haven't remarried. Aren't you waiting for me to turn over a new leaf? And you've raised Ping Ping so well. You can take care of my younger son too." I almost threw up in disgust. Over the past 11 years, I haven't been without suitors. I made it clear to them that in this lifetime, I would never have a second child, nor did I have the patience to deal with mother-in-law conflicts or marital discord, even less patience to help others take care of their children. While Zhang Tao was talking outside my shop, his young son kept picking up bricks from the ground and throwing them at him. Since birth, this child had not received careful care. He was already 5 years old and still couldn't say a word. He would often take off all his clothes and sit in a pile of dirt watching ants. He never knew to go home when he was hungry, and would grab food from whichever house had it. I often gave him steamed buns, so he didn't cause trouble in my shop. Looking at him, I was always grateful that the decision to divorce back then was the right one. If I had stayed in such a family, Ping Ping would have ended up like that sooner or later. The little kid hit Zhang Tao in the head with several bricks in a row, causing him to bleed. I, like a shrew, rushed out again wielding a fire poker. He thought I was holding an axe again, dodging and shouting. The old wound still hurts. In the end, they didn't dare to get tough with me. During the 2012 Spring Festival, with Zhao Benshan and Song Dandan gone. The Spring Festival Gala wasn't quite as enjoyable, but every generation has its own Zhao Benshan. In the 2014 Spring Festival, my 17-year-old son became obsessed with Boonie Bears. I took him to the cinema, where this big kid sat in the children's section, laughing louder than anyone else when it was funny and crying harder than anyone else when it was touching. After my son graduated from junior high, after consulting with his form teacher, I didn't let him go to high school. I kept him at the store, teaching him to make dumplings with me. He worked half the day, and I paid him a monthly salary of 2,000 yuan. For the remaining half of the day, he became obsessed with skating, always hanging out at the ice rink. This year, the wave of real estate frenzy blew into the neighboring province. Having already witnessed high housing prices in Beijing, I seized the last batch of affordable houses before property prices in our city started to rise. By the end of the year, when I moved in with Ping Ping and our dog, the house price had already doubled. My family on my mother's side accurately got the news that I had bought a house, and my parents, older brother, and sister-in-law all appeared at the entrance of my dumpling shop. Of course, everyone had aged a lot, but that was what time had given them, not me. My parents hinted that I should subsidize my older brother and sister-in-law a bit. They said that in the past 10 years or so that I hadn't returned to my mother's home, they had been fulfilling the duty of supporting our parents. I smiled and asked, wasn't it because I was worried about hindering my older brother's fortune that I didn't return to my mother's home, after not daring to return to my mother's home for more than 10 years? My older brother now has hundreds of millions in assets. My older brother lowered his head and picked at the dense fluff on his cuffs, stubbornly saying, "It's just average, a little better than ordinary people." I held out my hand to him. I still owe the bank 500,000. And Ping Ping won't be able to earn money in the future in his condition, so another 500,000 to support him. It's not hard to lend me 1,000,000, right? You go back and prepare. I'll go back to my mother's house next week to get it. I calculated the time and regretted. It's New Year again next week. So what should I do? Going back will hinder my older brother's fortune. Should I wait until after the first month of the lunar year to get the money? Ping Ping had already grown to be 1.8 meters tall. Hearing this, he stood up abruptly, staring at this group of people like a bear. Mom, I'll help you get it. He had grown up, and although he had undergone a long period of rehabilitation training, he was mostly like a normal person. But when he got emotionally agitated, he was still different. My mother's family was startled by my son, worried that he would go crazy, and left with their families. Later, my parents passed away, and my older brother and sister-in-law notified me. I went back to burn paper money and paid for half of the funeral expenses. The page of being a child was also turned. The 2017 Spring Festival was not a peaceful one. Zhang Tao's father, who had been paralyzed for 2 years, passed away on New Year's Eve. Zhang Tao called, asking me to bring Ping Ping back to the village to keep vigil. I didn't discuss it with Ping Ping and refused directly. Zhang Tao questioned me. Ping Ping has grown up. Why are you making decisions for him? Because Ping Ping is not a person with full capacity for civil conduct. I am his guardian, and I make decisions for him. There is no legal problem. He roared into the phone. Do you hate me that much? Are you really this heartless? I replied calmly. It's not hate. It's indifference. We're not interested in your Zhang family affairs. In Ping Ping's simple world, there are no words like grandpa, grandma, or dad, and I have no need to teach him. Zhang Tao's mother passed away a year later. Before she died, she made a special trip to the Baozi shop to see Ping Ping, tears streaming down her face. She told Ping Ping that the biggest mistake of her life was losing such a good grandson. Ping Ping was too busy steaming Baozi to even look up. After she passed away, When I took Ping Ping back to the village to handle the land certification, we passed by her grave. It was overgrown with weeds. In 2023, Ping Ping fell in love with a girl at the age of 26. The girl was born deaf, but with cochlear implants. Her hearing wasn't affected, because she heard sound later in life. She was still learning to speak, and her pronunciation was a bit unclear. The two met during the pandemic when Ping Ping was volunteering to deliver baozi to people staying at home. Ping Ping said he liked the aura she had. I asked him what kind of aura. He tilted his head and thought for a long time before saying, "The aura of home." The girl was very composed, and although her voice was gentle, it had a strength within. Perhaps that's the feeling that home gave him. I met the girl's parents. One parent was deaf, and the other had a limp. Their financial situation wasn't bad. Like me, they had worried about their child's future early on and had worked hard to save some money. The two young people had already reached an agreement about the future, to weather the storms together and not have children. We respected their choice. At the end of that year, the two young people got married. I invited the aunt from the Zhang family who had once given me 200 yuan. I invited the family of the guest house owner who had told me about the baozi shop's job opening. But I didn't notify Zhang Tao. He found out about the news beforehand and came to the wedding on his own. He didn't take a seat in the main area. He just stood on the side and watched the entire ceremony attentively. It wasn't until the ceremony ended that I noticed the tears glistening in his eyes. I didn't know when he left. It wasn't until after the banquet that I found he had left a red envelope containing 20,000 yuan for his son, along with a letter. In the letter, he said, "Ping Ping, a long time ago, your father humiliated you and your mother with 5 cents. For the past 20-some years, I have been enduring the punishment. Now that I'm at this stage in my life, I know there's no going back. I hope you have a happy life from now on." I didn't return the money. Of course, after he passes away, I will still have my son burn some paper money for him. At the end of the year, the village expropriated land, and my 3.2 acres of land with Ping Ping were within the expropriation range, totaling 200,000 yuan in compensation. I used my previous savings, plus these 200,000 yuan, to buy the property rights of both the steamed bun shop and the adjacent store. Officially handing them over to my son, the young couple started living their lives in a respectable manner. I accepted sister's invitation to travel abroad. I had never spent money so freely in my life, happily spending tens of thousands of yuan. When I returned to China, sister's traveled with me. She said that after being away for more than a decade, her hometown was still the best. During the Spring Festival of 2026, my family and my son's in-laws gathered together to celebrate the new year. Sister's daughter had settled abroad and did not return, so she was inevitably lonely, and I also invited her to join us for the festivities. We took turns cooking, each making our own specialty dishes. At 8 o'clock in the evening, when the Spring Festival Gala officially started, everyone raised their glasses together, wishing my son and daughter-in-law a lifetime of smoothness, wishing ourselves health in our old age, wishing all young people promotions and raises, wishing all babies a safe delivery. As for the New Year's money, just as we elders took out the prepared cash red envelopes, my son and daughter-in-law had already sent us their red envelopes via WeChat. Before opening it, I jokingly asked them, "You wouldn't have sent Mom 5 cents, would you?" My son emphasized seriously, "It's 5 cents multiplied by many, many, many times, as countless as my love for Mom." Looking at him, I could still vaguely recall that snowy New Year's Eve 26 years ago, when I held him standing on the edge of the cliff, and he stretched out his warm little hands to warm my tear-soaked cheeks, asking me, "Mom, are you cold?" It seemed like just a blink of an eye, And that little baby had become the tall young man he is now. I lowered my head, my eyes welling up with tears. Son, I accept your good intentions. With you, Mom has no regrets.